on a lot of gummy bears and beef jerky. I had a lot of extra food when it was all said and done. But for the most part, I didn't. We packed perfectly.
I think the
We had one
outside of the sleeping bag and things of that sort. If you're going to rent a mattress pad, you have to at least rent a mattress pad.
The inflatable one, yeah.
Right, you have to do that because again, sleeping on, if you're used to it, fine. But the rocks were just horrible.
Yeah.
Outside of that, the poles, I think, were absolutely.
Did you take hiking sticks? I know. Cardiac here did.
We had one guy in our group rented poles from them, and he left them at one of the ruins, and they could never find them again.
Right.
And it cost them $60.
$60. And
he rented them. They were $3 a day, but he ended up having to pay $60 for the poles, which at the end is
they charge you more for that here, probably. If you
well, I mean, the poles saved my life. Because I almost fell a couple of times and going for the pole.
I think the majority of stuff that I took outside of toiletries and stuff like that, I got on Amazon for pretty reasonable prices. Like we said, $20 sleeping bag, and we just left them. I mean, I didn't want to take the sleeping bag.
I gave him extra food, the sleeping bag.
And I think the poles. The other thing you really want to invest in, again, I think if you're going on this trip, is a good camera.
Okay.
iPhones today have really good cameras on them, so I don't know that you necessarily need a great camera, but you want something that you can take pictures on. And I think one of the biggest things that I was able to do was I brought one of the portable battery packs, so that if my phone or my camera or anything ran out, I at least had some extra juice, because there's no place to charge, there's no place to actually plug in. You don't need a computer. You want to minimize what you bring.
But that was the one thing, Gary. You brought a lot of that. I mean, that was
I brought a lot of
weight. I
batteries.
know for his audience, they're going to say this guy's carrying a lot of extra
I brought
weight.
a ton of batteries, and I essentially changed, like we talked about. The first day I was carrying them. The second day I put them in my duffel bag. And that's probably a good point that we haven't explained. When you hire a tour company, they allow you this 15 kilograms to put in a duffel bag.
15 pounds, yeah.
Yeah, so each 15 pounds. So each day in the morning when you wake up, you pack your things into a duffel bag, and then you have your pack on your back. So the duffel bag goes with the porters. So essentially what I had was the first day I was hiking with all of these batteries. I think I had 3 portable batteries that were able to recharge a phone like 6 times.
But I'm going to bet you 12 to 15 extra pounds probably in the batteries.
Yeah, no, it was easily. It was a lot of weight. And I had enough juice. I had way too many. I would say one larger battery would be plenty. I was also bringing those because I was able to charge the drone batteries if I could take the drone with me too.
Sure, right.
So that's why I had all those batteries as well. So batteries are important. A camera is important. I didn't use bug spray whatsoever. We talked about I didn't take any of the altitude medication. Definitely stock up on some Snickers bars and things of that sort. Some food that you like. Something that, maybe
was it Imodium that the other two had to take? I know we did not have issues.
The way you were talking, it sounds like you did take some.
No, there was
good things to bring.
People. Yeah,
because that stuff happens. That outside of the food and stuff, you may just be stressed, and your body may just kind of go on you. And nobody knows what their body's going to do if you've never been to 14,000 feet.
Yeah, right.
Nobody knows what their body's going to do at 14,000 feet. So it's important to kind of be prepared.
I took a leave every day. I took Ambien at night.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
To sleep, because remember, you're sleeping in a tent and people are out, and the porters would party. You have a lot of snorers, to your point, but you also have
these guys to snore.
I think everybody was at one point. The porters going at it one night too.
The porters all sleep in the food tent.
Yeah,
they
line them up. They have there was 11 people total, because you had the cook and the tour guide. Or the tour guide had his own tent, but you ended up 11 people lined up.
The tour guide's like a king. He's got his own tent. They cook for him.
Yeah, right.
He's the only guy who speaks English.
Yeah,
Presidente.
Yeah.
But he does this literally, he had one day off after we got back, and then he was taking a newlywed couple who wanted, for some reason, for their honeymoon, to hike the Inca Trail, which is amazing. But I mean, you really have to marry a woman that would want to do this, and he was taking them up on a private tour. But boom, here he is going another 30 miles of hiking right after he does it with us.
Yeah.
Obviously the guide spoke English without a doubt.
Yeah, our guide was awesome. William was awesome, and then he had a name we could pronounce. I mean, it was great.
That'd probably be interesting.
What we'll do
hanging
is
out with,
maybe we'll put his name in, so if you go to Hospice Peru or something, you can kind of request him.
Yeah, well, I can put a link on the website.
Yeah, I'll ask him.
You know, it'd be interesting to probably hang out with those guys and have a few cocktails like late night.
The stories that they told, that William told on the trail, and again, I wish I had some type of language ability to speak with the porters, because I think their stories would even be better. But you know what's funny is I'm in fairly good shape, and I was going fast on the trail. I could find, as I was walking up and stuff, I would see these porters pass me, and some of the locals pass me. And so, you know, I've got these special shoes, and you want to avoid blisters, and, you know, socks and all this stuff. And then here comes this guy going 100 miles a minute, wearing freaking sandals, almost bare feet that have been like ripped in several different places because he can't afford anything, and he's one of the locals, and he's flying by me.
Yeah.
And, you know, it kind of gives you a little bit of perspective that why do I need these $100 or $200 pair of boots, hiking boots with special socks, and this $500 jacket that I've got? I
bought your apricot scrub.
Yeah, my apricot scrub.
It probably costs like $300.
And I will tell you, the second night when you're camping at altitude, you're at about 13,000 feet. I didn't bring a lot of warm clothes because I figured, hey, we're going to be hiking and I'll be kind of hot, and I'll make sure that I at least have some layers. But I brought some long pants with some lining in them, and I thought they were going to be warm enough. Well, when we got to I showed them to William prior to us hiking, and he goes, yeah, you're probably going to want to get something. And he goes, I'll show you what you want to get. So before on your 2-hour bus ride, they usually stop at this place. It's just a little store, and I bought these alpaca pants that are wool pants.
Yeah, I've seen them.
And I got to tell you, they saved my life on that second night. Virginia got them as well. I think they were like $10. If you can buy them, because I got it. There was no way I would have survived that second night, even in a mummy bag with 3 pairs of pants that were on me.
What temperature do you think it got down to that night?
Oh, I think it easily got down to 25
Yeah,
Fahrenheit.
You lightweights.
Well, I think
you're in a 40-degree sleeping bag.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a super.
The mummy bag. I think I was at a 30-degree mummy bag, but it was freezing, and I had long underwear on, but it was just from the night before being perfect.
Yeah.
So
Well, you're
freezing to hot falls. I mean, it was nuts.
So you guys ready for 3 closing questions?
Fire away.
Yeah.
The big thought provokers.
Yeah, true, false.
No more true, false.
Yeah. So we can't get these wrong.
No, you cannot get these wrong. All right, guys. So a few final questions for you. Thought provokers.
Yeah.
What surprised you guys the most about Machu Picchu?
I'll let Scott answer first.
Honestly, just how beautiful it was, and that it was so undiscovered, and that only 30% of what we saw has been uncovered. Because like when you're on the trail and in the jungles, you're on the Inca Trail, and it was all handmade. So it was amazing that way. So, I mean, and really for somebody who didn't know much about it and didn't really do much research, I've become mesmerized by it. I've read the book, Turn Right at Machu Picchu. I've definitely watched documentaries on it since I got back because I felt sort of an attachment to it. It was just amazing. And everybody in Peru was super nice. And the one other thing that we didn't bring up earlier, besides Machu Picchu, in Cusco City and in Machu Picchu City, dogs run freely. I mean, there's like hundreds of dogs, and they're walking down the street like you're in the movie Zootopia, and you have animals. They don't bother you. They're all different breeds, but they just walk up and down the streets, and you go about your business. When we were in Lima, I didn't see that as much. I didn't see any dogs on the street, but right when we got to Cusco, you're walking down the street, and your first the ability to get nervous, right? You're like, oh, there's a dog coming at me. Is this a rabid dog? Like, what's going on? But they were all very friendly, and I mean, Gary's a dog lover, so he was into it with most of them that came by. But for most of us, I mean, it was interesting. So,
okay.
And one of the moments actually you brought up, one of the moments I laughed hardest was we had our final buffet lunch, and Scott had his pizza, and then they send you off to shop in the town of Aguas Calientes. And I turned around. I was looking at something, and I hear this loud bang, and I turn around, and there's Scott, who had just tipped over this poor woman's entire hat stand.
I mean, it exploded. It was unbelievable.
Like a
I just reached for a hat, so and the whole thing just comes crashing down in the middle of this flea market.
Probably 80 hats, and I have a great picture of him trying to put it back together, and the woman's like patting him on the back.
Again, everybody's super nice. I didn't get arrested. Nobody got upset.
No, but what I think the one thing I remember about is just get in shape if you're going to do this. Scott did great. I mean, I know Scott trained on it.
But not as much as I could have. And I will tell you, it made me want to be being healthy. I felt great there. And I don't know if it's that
place. There's endorphins, too. You get hooked on. You exercise every day.
You're out in the open, and I can
fresh air, no smog.
The entire time, there is something epic that you're looking at, meaning the mountains, the trees, the fog. I've got 7 or 8 different unbelievable time lapses. And that was the other thing. I was I never had enough time to do the time lapses that I wanted. I got this great star time lapse, and it took me 60 minutes to get 3 seconds of the stars moving across with this snow-capped mountain in the area. And that's what I'll remember is a lot of the pictures and the compositions that I saw in the pictures. And just not having time to set that stuff up because you're going. You have a lot of hiking on this trail to do. And again, we did the classic 4-day Inca hike.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of other different hikes that you can wind up in Machu Picchu with. But I think the one thing I remember is just everywhere you turn and every time you turn around, there is something gorgeous. And when you get to that sun gate, and you get your first peak of Machu Picchu, and the sun is kind of rising behind your back, and you see the clouds kind of rolling across Huayna Picchu, which is that's the big mountain in Machu Picchu that you see that some people pay extra to hike. When you see those clouds and you see that sun, and I kind of, again, I think I did a lot more research than most of the people on my trip. It just got emotional when you get up to this space, and it's just this gorgeous kind of, when you have these theatrical movies where they play this music, and in my head that was that kind of, that whole episode of just stuff. So I'll never forget that moment. Just, the 20 minutes I think we spent at the Sun Gate.
I would tell your listeners, if they want to do Machu Picchu, do it sooner. And if they're worried about being in shape, there is a new trail being made right now. When I say do it sooner, what we went through, what Gary and I experienced, I think we went at the right time, because there's the Inca Trail. They are now creating another trail that is flatter, that doesn't go up the mountain, doesn't go to the 4,000 feet, kind of just goes directly at Machu Picchu, more at a 7,000 or 8,000 elevation, and it'll be easier for people, but it won't have the same experience that what we had.
Now, they'll probably still keep the Inca Trail open, though, right?
Yeah, but I don't know how that's going to limit people, or does that expand the amount of people there? I felt, for the trail itself, I never felt crowded. I never felt like we were overwhelmed on the trail. When we got to Machu Picchu, it did feel like you see like ants just running, because as you're at the gates that Gary talked about, you look down and you see the people starting to walk up the hill.
Mm-hmm. There's a 5-day Salcane, I think is what it's called. And that trail, they tell you it's unusual to see another person. This trail, the Inca Trail, I never felt crowded on the trail, but there's not really too many moments when you're by yourself.
Unless you're out of shape and way in the back.
Right. Scott experienced it the second day, and I experienced the second day going down as well, because I was doing a lot of
I walked with the tour guide up, and he walked with the tour guide down.
I think I was a couple hours behind everybody on the way down. But I was doing a lot of just, picture taking and setting up for time lapses. And I got some epic time lapses.
Now, you guys both mentioned you'd like to go back to Peru. If you did go back, where would you go?
Rainbow Mountain would be one. That was a hike we saw pictures, and that's a tough hike.
Also guided, right?
Yeah, you can. I think you can do that on your own.
You can do that on your own. In fact, you can drive up to it, and I think it's only like a very short hike to the top. But it's drone friendly, which I found out later. William told me that you can take. He said if you come back, bring you a good drone, and we'll go up to Rainbow Mountain.
I mean, it's cool to know we were in the Andes Mountains. Like, those are things that I researched after the hike to know that the mountains was part of the Andes Range that we were hiking. And as somebody who's hiked the Smokies like yourself, I mean, you're in different parts, and you don't realize,
There is
the
so much.
Mountains.
I follow this one guy on YouTube, Brendan Van Salm. He's a photographer, and I chatted with him a little bit before I went to Peru because he brought his Phantom to Peru, literally like 2 weeks before we got there. Now he didn't do the Inca Trail hike. He went to Machu Picchu and he said, "Hey, you can't have a drone in Machu Picchu." But he did a full 2 weeks in Peru, and some of the stuff that he did, just out in the middle of nowhere, with just these epic vistas and some of the landscapes that he caught, just that's what I would go back to Peru for. If you want more of the city stuff, go into Lima. I think Lima Cusco's a pretty good sized city, but Lima definitely is the more modern of the two.
Yeah, but I didn't find it. I enjoyed Cusco better.
I think Cusco's
Lima was
fun.
not a city. I thought it was going to be so much more. And the tallest building is a hotel in Lima,
Yeah.
and that's like the only modern building. And it's on the water, which is nice. But it was a great day too. We were only there a day, so I don't know that I gave it a full look and feel.
Any one thing that you guys would do differently if you did it again? Which you probably wouldn't, but if you did.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know that there was anything we could have done differently.
Well, I think the flight there,
flights. Yeah, I mean the time.
The flights were tough because we took off at 10 at night in Atlanta.
Yeah.
To go down to Miami to take off at 2 a.m. to
go through Colombia, where we had an hour and a half layover to get to Cusco. So we got there at 11:15 the next morning. That was tough. It was only $600 and something, so we went for savings there. And then coming back, the direct to Miami wasn't bad.
But I think if you time it right, you can get direct flights from Miami for around $800 round trip.
Okay.
We wound up paying dirt cheap fares, which were very cheap, but it was.
But it knocked us out. And
I think that
you were wiped out when you got there.
Yeah.
That would be my one thing is the time. It's not too much of a time difference.
What time zone are they on? Are they
it's only 1 hour behind us.
Yeah.
They're on the central time zone.
Right. Well, we did like a red eye, and it was a tough red eye too.
Yeah. Well, it was tough because you're going to Colombia, where you're sitting around for like an hour and a half in Colombia, and then going through customs there, and then going to.
Yeah. So I think if I had to do one thing differently, I think that would be it. As far as the trail or booking or anything of that sort, we stayed. Was it the Hilton Garden in Cusco we stayed in?
No, it was a. It wasn't a Hilton.
Novotel.
Novotel Cusco.
I would highly recommend that hotel.
Great location, walk around.
Fantastic showers and bathrooms in there. The beds, super, super comfortable. Really centrally located. Well worth any extra money that you're going to pay.
It was only $90 a night.
Well,
it's
and
European
that was
chain, right?
Yes.
Yeah, European.
Yeah, I think so. Morgan and
Liz
stayed up at the top of Cusco.
And they stayed at the Hilton Garden.
They stayed at the Hilton Garden, and it's well outside of the city, up on top of a hill, and so you probably don't want to stay there. Again, the Novotel, I think, is perfect location inside the city. It's right, I think it's like 3 blocks from the Plaza de Armas.
Yeah, very close. It was great.
And it's and the Plaza de Armas is the center of the city. And that's where I got that cool hat.
That's where you knocked over the headstand.
No, that was in
Aguas Calientes.
Yeah.
That was after 4 days. I mean, we're dirty. And we're just walking around.
She was just happy you walked out of there. Just go.
Yeah. I mean, it's just you don't appreciate anything until it's over, and that's the sad thing. Is that for me, I was so stressed about can I make it? Can I do the hike? Can I get through it? That there really wasn't time to really embrace it. Like when you did the Appalachian Trail, I think you had enough time to really. I mean, I'm sure part of you is like, I just want to get this over with to say I completed it.
It's the disconnection, though. You can just disconnect and really let your mind go.
Yeah, and for us, I was just like worried about, okay, we got another day of no shower and sleeping. Let's get through this. And I don't think I appreciated it at the time. It's like when somebody said, I wish I knew when the good old days were.
Well, let's bring that up for the listeners because, I mean, that was the first time you'd ever done a multi-day backpacking.
First time I ever camped out without Cub Scouts.
Yeah, that was the first time.
Was that the first time for you too?
It was the first time I ever slept in a tent.
Okay.
Yeah.
First, you didn't even like car camping at a state park?
Never did.
Oh my God!
So I did not know that.
There you go, listeners. There's your encouragement right there.
Yeah, if he could do that, and
I had
he's a germaphobe.
Well, I'm a germaphobe, but I also had
with
some.
with apricot scrub.
I had some Advil PM kind of stuff that I took at night to sleep,
Yeah.
and I slept really well and didn't wake up I woke up sore, so I had Advil and stuff. But that was the first time I ever slept in tent. So
And no critters keeping you up. No interesting wildlife. Really.
Gary stayed up and watched the stars. You have more to talk. I literally went to bed and I was exhausted.
The first night I stayed up, I went to a little party. It was Independence Day,
Mm-hmm.
so it was so loud I couldn't fall asleep. So I walked with one of the porters up just a little bit, and we went to this church, and the locals were partying. Then the second night I stayed up and I did a time lapse for an hour. I was freezing my balls off that night, and I climbed into the tent. The third night was the worst campsite by far. And we didn't have a very good spot. And so there was really nothing to do. So I just immediately went to bed, but you had to wake up at 3 a.m. to hike with your headlamp on.
That last day.
And that last day, I mean, it can't be overstated. You need a headlamp if you go on this. Absolutely 100%.
You brought it around?
Yeah. Do not bring a flashlight. Buy a headlamp off of Amazon for $10-15 because that last night, 3:30 in the morning, you're getting up, you're on the side of a mountain, and you're hiking for a good 3-4 hours prior to the sunrise.
With a brutal cliff to your
side. The cliff is on your right, the cliff is on your left. You go up these things called the monkey stairs, which they call the Gringo Killers. And it's about 50 to 80 stairs up, and you literally on all fours hiking up. And you don't want to go up these monkey stairs with a freaking flashlight in your hand. Yeah. Because if you fall backwards, you're going off the mountain.
Well, I had the question on there, and I didn't ask it earlier when I meant to. I mean, like the danger factor here. Like,
I will tell you that I don't understand. Luckily, none of our group got hurt. I mean,
I think a lot of people turn ankles.
Yeah, I did. I turned
legs and stuff.
Yeah.
Nobody got hurt. I would say on a danger rating, like 10 would be.
The opportunity was up there.
10 would be like jumpsuit flying or those wingsuit things, and 1 would be like Disneyland. Small world after all. I'd say this is probably a 6 as far as danger goes.
I would have said a 7.
Wow, that's higher than I would have thought, actually. I was thinking you were going to come in the middle.
Because you're on the edge. I mean, there's just so many areas that minor things can happen. Now,
yes.
You could, little things like slip off a cliff or trip or, go down the stairs. I literally had moments where I thought I was done.
And there's no getting out. You're walking.
Yeah.
So
there's no helicopter up. There's none of that. I mean, you're screwed. You got a bone sticking out. They're gonna figure out a way to carry you down.
So they got to carry you out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's not a short carry either. It's not like, hey, get us to the main road.
And I got to tell you, I don't even know if I'd want to be carried because the drops you would be in so much pain.
Yeah.
I mean, they had first aid carried with us every time. The porters carried a whole giant first aid kit, which we didn't need, but they offered it to us. They would check with us, are you sick? Because you have the altitude sickness to deal with, which can screw with your mind, definitely. And then you've got how your body relates to the food, the altitude, just your overall health. Are you in shape? And,
your muscles hurt.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. This is not like running a marathon. This is not like doing an Ironman. You have to be in decent shape to do it. Scott was in pretty good shape, and he does. Scott's got this
I was
thing.
The worst shape of anyone.
Well, yeah, but you've got this thing where you need to make it from point A to point B, and nothing's going to stop you from getting to point B. That's what Scott has. I don't have that. If I don't get to point B, I'm fine with it. I don't care. It doesn't matter. But I knew that I needed to be in good enough shape so that I could get.
Well, and he also didn't have a choice. This isn't like, hey, I'm going to turn back and go back. We started at point A and you had to get to point B because it wasn't like, I could just turn around and go back. It was like you had, there was no stopping. So I was worried about holding other people up. Because
the third day was the toughest for me with the length of it. That was tough.
So to end on a positive note, if you could say one sentence about why the listeners should do Machu Picchu, what would you say?
I'll let you go first on this one.
It's one of the 7 wonders of the world. I mean, it truly, when I researched that and you see these pictures, and what's funny is Steve Scornia brought us a National Geographic. He visited us early in July, right before we left for the trip. And he was in the airport and he saw National Geographic, and on the front cover of National Geographic was Machu Picchu, and he bought both of us the magazine.
Oh, I saw your picture. That was cool.
I still got that magazine.
That's gonna be the cover shot for the podcast.
Yeah,
by the way.
And it's great.
That is awesome.
I've got that
perfect.
picture.
That was well done.
And what's amazing is, as beautiful as that picture is, it doesn't even compare to real life.
Yeah.
The fact that, there's a virtual reality of Machu Picchu coming out by these YouTubers called the Vagabond Brothers. And they travel the world, and they just got a permit to do virtual reality. And I was looking at some of the photos and some of the footage that they had. And having just been there, even that doesn't do it justice. It's just this epic, you look to your left and you see the side of a mountain. You're straight ahead of you, and you see this Huayna Picchu with the city of Machu Picchu right in front of you. And you look to your right, and there's 4 or 5 mountain ranges that you just came over. And that's it. It's not, there's like people around you at this sun gate and stuff, and you can see a little bit of buses down below, but you don't see a city. You don't see anything. It's just, if I can tell your listeners one thing, you're not prepared for how gorgeous it is.
So I didn't see that coming, actually. I didn't realize you had the views that you do. But that was about 70 sentences, by the way. One sentence. Why
the experience. I mean, it is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And anyone that's ever done it will always remember it and always talk about it.
But well stated, by the way, John Boy.
Yeah, true or false, right? It's both.
Well, guys, thank you for the in-depth look at Machu Picchu. You've encouraged me. But now I can't go with you because you've already gone. But
let us know if there's pictures or stuff that we can share. And it was really an unbelievable.
Well, what we'll do is I'll definitely grab some pictures for you. I'll put them in a photo gallery, and I'll put a link on the site from the podcast. So we'll definitely.
And I'll have a video up at some point in time of all this stuff. I've got some raw footage of my time lapses and stuff up on YouTube, but I'm going to edit it together hopefully this week.
That's awesome. I will definitely hook you up with some links.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having us, Steve.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for hosting this evening in your basement.
No, hey, it's great. Anytime. This was fun. I appreciate it. Hopefully, this isn't the last time that we're part of this podcast.
And for the listeners that don't realize that there's a YouTube video, the man that's like hidden from view.
He gets in there every now and then.
I'm like the Wilson on Home Improvement. I like
he just sticks his head over the fence.
Yeah, exactly, at the top of my head. So it's all good. But thank you very much. And listeners, go to Machu Picchu. You'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I'll give you some links to the company that we use and stuff like that. But again, if you want to just research, I did my research on TripAdvisor. And don't let it stop you. Again, I did not specifically look for a deal with a tour company. And I know a lot of people look for the best deal and stuff. I didn't look for a deal. I think we got a fair price. In fact, I think we got more than a fair price. You can probably go with one of the other outfitters. Oh, that's a good piece of advice.
Okay.
Find an outfitter that won't give you 30 people on your tour. Meaning, we had a very small group, and it was very well managed. We had great food.
Yeah.
But there were people, the tour groups out there with like 30 people with like 10 porters. And so their porters were kind of rushed, and their tents weren't necessarily set up. You're going to be so stressed on this thing because you want to get from, once you get to your campsite and stuff, you're going to be set up. And then if you want to go out and meet other people at other parties, that's what you want to do. But you don't want your tour company to be stretched.
That's great advice. One thing I didn't think about. And you knew exactly how many were on your tour from the get-go.
You will know prior. A good tour company will let you know who's on the tour. And they offered to hook us up so that we could talk with the 2 other people who we didn't know who were on the tour. We didn't take advantage of that. I think we shot a couple of emails back and forth, but there weren't a lot. But again, specifically, I chose this tour company because we had a small group, and it was good. The larger groups, I talked to some of the people on the tour, the larger groups just didn't have as much fun.
Okay.
It's not that they didn't have fun. They just didn't have as much fun.
A hot tip for you there, listeners. Well, guys, thanks again for being on the show. And
thanks for having us.
You have inspired me to do Machu Picchu.
Hopefully.
Well, you're 50 years old, so the clock's ticking.
It's ticking, all right.
They'll need to carry you like the Czech woman.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, that's a wrap, gentlemen.
Thanks, Steve.